Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. I was just taking some photographs of some stamped originals or scenes that people have sent to me over this last, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half or so, and I just got around to shooting them for the Flickr gallery, posting them on things like Pinterest and Facebook and whatnot. Now, some of these have already been posted on them because these people are on Facebook, but I just kind of reposted them just as a kind of a consolidated type of grouping for who sent them to me. Okay, so this one piece is done by Chow Tran, and she was part of the Nancy Stamps channel Stamp Wars, the 2020 December event. And that event, for those that don't know, these participants receive kind of a mystery stamp set or stamp, and they are to open this set up and they have to create something with it in the span of a given amount of time. I don't remember how long it was. It was like an hour or something like that. They have challenges that come at them. But what they do after that initial Stamp Wars event is they make a follow-up card on their own channels, okay? So Chow has her own channel. I'll put some links to it down in the description sections below for these different channels and whatnot. But anyways, they used Nature Set number 6 here, the Lakeside Cabin one here. And some of the participants on that Stamp Wars event had never done maybe Stampscapes or just scenic stamping in general. So, it was really quite new to them. Some of them were really stepping out of their comfort zones, but they really did some really fantastic work. Okay, so this one's by Chow, and it is really cool here in terms of the formatting and whatnot. She put the interior lighting on her cabin there. She used some of that little white pigment ink in here. And this is really good, but one of the things that would really put this over the edge, the only thing that this would need from kind of a more kind of a beginner type of scenic stamping thing is if she left a little bit of lighting in here, because then it would have had the lighting coming from above. But that is the one thing there that would really put this one over the top, and it would take it from someone that hasn't used too much of it, just looking like, basically an expert. But that is the only thing there. And this looks like a terrific card. Okay, Tracy Schultz did this piece right here. Okay, similar type of composition right here. But look at this, the moonlight in here. They both have their kind of light sources right over here on the right-hand side, but one of them is a cool tone composition, one of them is a warm tone composition. Okay, but they have both done the interior lighting on their cabins, which looks really fantastic. From an emotional standpoint, it really draws the viewer into the scene, okay? And I don't know, there's really nothing to say about this piece. The lighting, see this right here? Right below the moon, continues that light source into the surface. So you have it in the sky, and then you have it reflected in the reflected lighting, okay? The one thing that I would do on this one, as a little tiny tweak, is that yellow light coming from that cabin right there, okay? I would put a little of that warm light down here in that reflected area that is in the design itself. See those little cabin window lighting right there? But just put a little, kind of a dull version of a little bit of yellow down there. And that would be the little tiny, like, minute tweak that I would personally do if this were my piece. But what a fantastic card and format right here. Really great. This piece right here is done by Ryan Swift. And I watched this one live being done. And I'll show you something that he did on that video that I had him send to me that he was about to throw out. Okay, but what a great looking card here. The one little touch on here, I mean, I like the whole thing, actually a couple touches, but he put this quote, this little text down here, which is really awesome in this piece, but he also sprayed it with there's that glitter spray that he put over the whole thing, which makes it really iridescent and reflective in those areas, so you get this look like this, but then when you hold it up like that, you get in that darkest of area, reflected light coming off that glitter. So that was really cool. Okay, now, so one of the pieces that he was working on, he was doing a background like this, okay? And then I think he thought he made it too dark and he was about to trash it or something. And I said, hey, don't, I was typing in the text, don't toss that out, send it to me. So I just finished this piece off using the background that he started and didn't like, okay? I just added in the embossed foreground in here. I stamped out the cabin in there, gave it that interior lighting, and here's that kind of reflected lighting down below. I put a text quote stamp in there, or word stamp, and just finished off the piece in card format there. So collaborative piece between the two of us, I guess you can say. This piece right here is by Stacy Valentine, and a really great layered piece in terms of visual depth by having incrementally lighter layers going back into the distance using the pine row right here. But she mentioned how in this her letter right here was she was truly intimidated with this set, but she's glad that she was taken out of her comfort zone, and she thinks she did a pretty good job, and I think she did a great job on this one right there too. So, but look at this. I mean, look at that, the layering and depth that was achieved from this. But here's the thing too. She stamped this ledge stamp right here in a lighter color so that those foreground stamps would stand out in terms of, kind of visual spatial depth right there. So that's a really cool little addition that she had right here. So she has depth right here in the foreground and depth, 2 layers of depth going in the background. She has the black trees from the lakeside cabin. There's kind of an olive green layer of trees. Actually, there's 3 different colors of pine row back here. So she did the pine row in 3 different colors, but there are also 3 different values, okay? One's lighter, or the 2 of them are lighter than the other one, okay? Slightly. The gray one's a little bit lighter, but then she's followed up with those same types of tones in the overall color scheme so that that area there kind of harmonizes together in terms of that spatial depth. And here's the envelope that goes with that. And here's Nancy McCabe from Nancy Stamps channel that puts that event on, and a really fantastic looking kind of, we call this type of look here a split fountain in high school graphic arts class. It's like taking a screen and doing that transitioning tones back there. I'm not sure how she did this one, but it looks really fantastic with those tones in the background. She might have masked this off, I'm guessing, or she just did the whole thing. And because this was a lighter tone in the background, she just stamped that cabin right over. I have a feeling this is masked off, though, but I can't really tell. But these transitioning tones down here are really great. And then she stamped out her water pattern in that blue to go with this cool toned violet scheme down here. Okay, has the trees right here in the foreground, the ledge right here to create kind of that creates kind of this perch for us as a viewer to stand on right there, okay? And that from an emotional standpoint and a visual standpoint too, if we kind of subconsciously enter the scene right here, it gives us a place to kind of go and stand on something firm, okay? So little things like this kind of make a difference when it comes to scenic stamping, because it's a scene and it's like an actual location, or it's a depiction of a location. So we look for things like this, to go and stand or sit on, if it were, an actual location, that would be very inviting there. So again, from an emotional standpoint, it draws the viewer in, and it gives us something to kind of, kind of enter the scene for, to observe, what's going on in the background right there. And the 2 layers of depth, okay? So we have this in black, and then those trees in kind of like a pine green in the background like that. So it gives it that visual, spatial depth right there. Okay, this is a piece by Char Reynolds, And she has combined some Stampscape stamps with stamps from another company right here, but she has a really fantastic style to her usage of color in scenes. Just really clean zones of color, you might say, but all kind of harmonized together in the overall look. And there are different kind of transitioning colors within these spaces for the utilization of value to create space and shadows and lighting, okay? But always does that really cool kind of look in terms of her color blends up in her skies and throughout the pieces right here. I really like the use of the lady with coffee looking out into the distance like that. It really gives us kind of a sense of scale when you have people in a scene. And I usually like to have my people kind of looking out into the distance because, you know, as opposed to kind of looking towards us, but it kind of, if you're a woman, it kind of transports you into the figure looking out into the scene like that, you know, from an emotional standpoint. So really great work. Following pieces are by Hannah Gibson, someone on the Stampscapes Facebook group, which is a peer group, it's not my channel or my group or anything like that. But this is a kind of Christmas card, but look at the depth achieved with the kind of the reverse trees in here. We saw the depth created by varying values of trees in those previous cards that I just showed. But this one is here creating depth with the use of a reverse image in terms of light on darker, or in this case, white on blue right here. But one of the things about this piece that I'll try to show here, I'm not sure if I can, you know, get it on camera, is all of the texturing down here in the snow on the top of the cabin. I mean, certainly you can see this kind of speckled paint kind of area, the bleed proof white or whatever she was using on there. But look at the snow put on the fence right here. But I don't know, can you see some of that texturing in here? Just really fantastic stuff. She's really kind of a fantastic user of images and kind of the overlapping and layering of images to create visual texture. But then that piece right there had physical texture where you have areas that are raised. Okay, so this is a really cool scene. I don't know who those bikers are by. By the way, not all stamps in all of these scenes are Stampscapes, okay? So they've been combined, which, you know, I've designed Stampscapes to be able to do. Showcase designs from other companies. All right, but really great transitions of color and light throughout the piece right here. This is a really great kind of a sunset or twilight type of piece right here. And a really great use of the oaks in the background right there and the pond. And I like the dynamics of the diagonal right here for those riders right there in the corner. But a really fantastic piece, okay? This one right here, she did kind of a whole series with this stone bridge right here, and this is a really fantastic use. It's really, when I saw that right there, the tall peak in the background, it was like, wow, I haven't seen that used quite like that, where it's just kind of a peekaboo area of this larger stamp. That stamp right there is probably about this big, okay? But she's just used that small portion of it to be showing right through, over and through that bridge right there. And then she has this waterway coming out from the back here. She really dissects images and uses just portions of it for what she's going after. I think this is the watermill stamp right here. I'm not sure. And she might have carried this out. She might have added those dots down there herself. But I see all kinds of, you know, like the sedge cluster types of formations and the tree cluster to flank that area right there. But just some really great builds from the piece. Okay, now, she's someone, like I said, that can really break down images. And this one right here, or she did another one really similar to this using just kind of some textural forms. This texture right here might be from this tall peak or the falls there, but has been used like sideways in this kind of like shale type of formation right here. When I saw this, it really put me into the challenge of trying to figure out what parts of the image she used to create this whole kind of area in here. This area in here might not be recognizable to those that might know the image, but that is the oak branch just used over and over again for this dense kind of heavily foliated canopy of greenery in there. But see right in here where she wanted that bridge to stand out, that canopy becomes much lighter around in that area for that area to show. Because if it was like this dark right in here, we wouldn't be able to see that. And then she's made kind of the base of this bridge, she's given it kind of a three-dimensional form by adding that shadow on the underside of it. So now it's a view of the bridge from the underside of it by giving it that silhouette form like that, which is really awesome. And then this area right in here, there's no kind of falls like that on the image itself, so she's kind of added that in with the use of some white media right over the top of that. And then you get this kind of glowing pool down in there where the water is churning. It was really a fantastic piece right here. But really an amazing use of just really small portions of a given stamp. And not only that, but it's turned sideways, okay, from the format of the original design. Okay, here's another piece right here going into that heavily foliated area and using the bridge right here, the stone bridge. But look at this kind of transitioning kind of corridor of these trees right here, extending the tree trunk out like that, using them at different angles, using them from different portions, having the oak branch hang in from the side. You have the leafless limbs going on in the background. But not only that, you have the reflections in a very subtle way down in here on the water. So by looking at this, we know that that water is very still water and very reflective, and it's been just depicted so beautifully in here and designed like that. It's just a really amazing piece here. And that warmth there created by that by those colors really gives you kind of the feeling of light coming from within the scene outward, okay? Everything that we're doing on, a piece of white paper is reflected light, but when you're doing these types of scenes, we can give the illusion of light coming from within the scene out, like if you have a sun or something like that. Or in this case, it's just kind of the light coming from the background right in here, but also coming through those trees in those little areas where there is kind of space where that little peekaboo area of light can kind of sneak in there. So really cool. Okay, these pieces are by Rose Kohnke, and she sent me these just recently here. And she gave me a little letter, and she said that she was struggling with composition and the overlapping of images, okay? But something just clicked, and I'm telling you, whatever it was before, in terms of the overlapping of images, as we can see, she is not having a problem with overlapping anymore. That's one of the things that I always mention to people, that when they're getting used to using stamps that are meant to be overlapped, it's kind of a foreign thing because we avoid that at all costs with outline styles of imagery, okay? But I've designed Stampscape stamps to overlap. You overlap things, so you don't have to fuss about it. But that lack of fussing about it it's a hard kind of mental breakthrough if you've always done very careful placements of your images, not overlapping lines and outlines and stuff like that. But once someone does it, man, it is freeing, and I usually see it right in my workshops. People are just stamping and going, oh my gosh, Or if they do a little masking, it's like a little piece of paper towel and whatnot. But let's take a look at her pieces right here and see what she's been doing. Okay, so she, not only was doing kind of smaller cards, but she said she's gotten the half page. This is a full page scene right here, 8.5 by 11. And I don't know, these like figures right here were probably masked out a little bit, okay? But as far as like the imagery goes, the landscape pieces in here all overlap beautifully, continuous, seamless, etc. Okay, we're going to stay kind of zoomed out because there are some big pieces in this one. But look at this kind of winter piece right here. Really great tonations all over the snow and whatnot. Shadows being cast by the covered bridge right there. And just some really great layering, okay, of the tops of the pine row in the background there. That's the same pine row that were on the Stamp Wars piece. Here's the bridge right here, the smaller version of that bridge that Hannah had in her pieces right there. But look at this, streams kind of running through out and about like this. And she's kind of created all these little corridors of these pieces like this by doing overlapping the imagery, stacking imagery, building it all together, going from left to right, etc., with the same pieces, and bringing it all together in terms of continuity through coloring, but also through similar form, common forms. So she's used like the tree cluster here, and those tree clusters in the background are just the little bits of this tree top right here, just used in smaller portions right here. There might be some of these pines and rocks pieces right here, and I don't know, you see this throughout. These little bushes right here look like the tops of the oak row, I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but I don't know. Really fantastic piece right there. I don't see too many, full-size scenes that often, but when I always see them, I always am pretty amazed by the just the open space that that these pieces can provide for the user. But really cool piece right here. I like the way this transitions from one area to the other. The colors and the continuity throughout the coloring. I really like how she adds in those little kind of green areas on these rocks right here that can represent moss or lichen or something of that sort. But that little green on the tops of these trees in here, on the tops of the rocks in here, brings that continuity, color continuity between that area and all these other areas that have it throughout the piece. So it's really pretty awesome. And this piece looks to me like it looks almost like one of those kind of maps where you can put kind of like directions or whatever. I mean, it's not there's not like little lines running around in here all over the place, but I don't know, it kind of has that feel to it, and it's really cool. Okay, so moving on, kind of a similar piece, but she's used these rock walls here. Okay, going this way and then this way and this way, so it creates this movement like this, and this is called like an S pattern in kind of compositions, and it creates kind of this dialogue. It creates this visual path for us to go down. So I don't know, when you look at this piece, I don't know if you went from the bottom up or if you came from the top down, but chances are you kind of followed this path that she has created through the structuring of these walls like this. Okay, but fun piece, fun composition. Okay, now this is really similar to that winter piece in terms of the structuring and how this has all kind of been laid out. But of course, she's done it in more of like a spring, summer type of color scheme right here. And that's something you can certainly do. Snow doesn't have to be snow. If you put brown on it, green on it, whatever, okay? And she has these really nice kind of textural forms in terms of the that little yellow pen that she's using to create these kind of flowers throughout the piece. But that little kind of textural form is that extra little kind of needle and thread running through the piece that gives it a nice kind of pop of color and continuity. I don't know what she's done on these cabins right there with that kind of rustic orangish look, but I really like that. You know, I don't know, it really looks like an aged type of kind of wood. It looks really rusty or something like that. It must be some. It almost looks like a pigment ink or something like that. I don't think it is. Maybe it's an oxide. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to ask her about that. It's on these ones too. See how I always talk about this, but you vary the application of colors on your structures to make them look more three-dimensional, okay? But I don't know, I like that really rusty type of color. I don't think it's an alcohol ink. It looks a little bit more oxide-ish. Okay, another winter piece right here, built up beautifully, and just kind of those minimal tones of light blue throughout the piece in the shaded areas. I always mentioned that the shading is already on the designs, okay? But you can see in these darker areas like that, she has just added, she's followed the shading convention of the designs, okay? So you see these little dots where they're a little bit more condensed like that. She has just gone and added an extra blue into those areas. So she's, like I said, reinforced the shading convention of the design like that. And look how effective it is in here. And again, see this right here? You know, darker sides. Of course, that's snow on the top, so it's very reflective in terms of the light, but darker sides on the image itself, and she's just added that brown right in there. It's probably a couple different shades of brown, too, because it looks a little bit richer than just one color. All right. Two cards like this, two scenes on a card like here, but a great visual lead-in. And just like she uses kind of that greenish tinge on those like rocks in the background right here, she has toned in those little bushes on the pathway like that, okay? It not only, there's that rusty color on that fence again right there. That's really nice. Can you see that? But yeah, a great visual lead-in and some great toning within this piece right here. Same thing like that right there, you know. Reiterating what's on the design itself. And then seeing this water space right down here, you know, she didn't tone everything in uniformly, okay? There's always a little bit of light going on, even if it's a little peekaboo area of it. So what she's doing is she's coloring, but she's lighting at the same time by the retention of some of these lighter areas on the rocks, on the water, even in the sky. See that little tiny bit right there? That's all you need to depict lighting, is just not the uniform coverage of everything. You just retain some of those areas of light, and having that texture and things like water and sky really look good. It doesn't have to be so evenly applied. All right, we have an interesting piece right here. It's like, it's almost like, is that the Colosseum right there? It kind of looks like the Colosseum, but in this kind of glacial, you know, Antarctic type of setting. I like that. It's kind of gives me, it looks like kind of a surreal type of setting, but it's really cool. I like that look right there. Kind of a southwestern type of thing right here. Created those images in the distance like that. These two are like that, but these ones right here, they're not quite adobe structures or anything like that, but kind of having that kind of tone on the sides really kind of blends in the structures with the setting, kind of lending itself to a nice visual harmony and whatnot. But again, you know, instead of using, say, blues for a winter type of scene in here, she's used more coverage of those lighter tones, but and again, in these areas like that, given those darker areas in there, the shadow areas of the designs, kind of that deeper little tone. Not super dark, you know, like going to black or anything like that, but you just use some of your darker tones in those shaded areas. And then again, see it throughout these water areas in the sky. There's a little bit of a lighter area and a darker area, giving it that variation and thus depiction of light. Okay? Same thing everywhere in here. There's these little areas of light, and that little retention of it creates your lighting scheme. All right. I don't know, these little blue dot or purple dots down here. I think this is like it might be in like a binder of hers, which is kind of cool to keep all your pieces together. But it seems like there's like some purple underneath there. So I don't think that's part of her composition right here. But look at her little paint pen dots throughout here. Look at that floral kind of explosion going on. I mean, it's busy if you look at it like that, but you know, this is at arm's distance, and it just kind of creates this shimmering little texture there of those little illuminated flowers, okay? Lighter rooftop, than the sides, giving it the depiction of overhead lighting, top lighting. But some really great textural forms in here. And then just this little area of like a sandy kind of area leading to that covered bridge and going into it. So it's like this illuminated walkway. In this case right here, where it has all this water down here, it gives me the idea that you're kind of walking down this way and coming down here to the, the edge of the water to visit the lake or pond or whatnot. But normally when I'm looking at this covered bridge, I'm thinking about going this way and into it. But when I look at this composition with this lake down here, which is really cool, I envision myself coming down this way and coming right down here, and you can sit right there on the shore and have your lunch or whatever, or fish or whatnot, So that was an interesting dynamic to see. And here's another piece right here that's very similar, okay? But look at the different color schemes and depiction. There's that color back in there, that kind of that rusty orangish yellow or brilliant yellow in the background. Brilliant yellow, it has a little bit more red in it. But a couple of different variations. This one has that pink in there. Look at that pink in there. And see it down here too. It's carried out back over this way. If it was just here, it would look kind of isolated, but then you have these little elements like that to bring it together. Okay? So it's like 2 different times of the year or something like that. I don't know, or a different time of the month maybe. You know what I mean? It looks like it's the same location or general location, or maybe it's like a couple years later around the same season. But I really like it when there's kind of similar compositions, but they're kind of treated differently. It gives it that kind of passage of time type of thing, especially when you view them together. Okay, there's that bridge again right there, done in kind of a little kind of bank right here. Looks like a really great place to go sit and have a picnic right there. What can't you see? Kind of putting down a little blanket right there, or you go down here to visit the lake and do some fishing or something like that. A really welcoming type of scene. Here's another one right here, and see the lighting right here, lighting right here, lighting right there. Just the retention of light. It doesn't have to be white in here. It's just lighter than other areas, okay? And then you get that depiction of light happening in there. And it varies the overall tone. So what you see is it's darker here, light, darker, light, darker. Darker, light, darker, light, and dark, light, dark. See, that's what's going on. You checkerboard your scenes, okay? But a really great place to go and fish. I'd look to go over here off that shore, or just to go back and kind of commune with nature, something like that. The sedge banks right here, kind of brought together. They're going butt up like that, but she's used this bank right here, okay, right down here again. I haven't seen it built up like this, but what an effective use of it. It kind of reminds me of a wetlands area, like right in here, like a seasonal type of flooding or something like that. And there's the main pond in the background, maybe. But just a really fantastic structuring on here. Another scene like this, with those little background hills built up. This is the snow texture right here that she's defined these hills with in here. The texture has been used right here, okay? But you see it used here, 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 and here. So again, snow textures. It's not a snow texture if you do it green, or if you do it brown, or green and brown, or something like that, right? And that's the same thing that we can done for the the grassy textures. I guess if you do it white, then it looks like kind of like snow or something like that, or you're just doing light blues. Okay, and another piece right here using the rock walls, but look at this rock wall right here. Just a little peekaboo version of it right here and right here, and she has created with the elm trees like this entry point right there to enter in this kind of enclosed area, I guess you can say, in the background. Really fantastic use of these structures like this. So she's really kind of grooving in the groove with her elements and how to use certain portions and whatnot for the looks that she's going after. Okay, we're going to stay zoomed out again. These are some pieces by Genie Siegel. Genie is really fantastic with whatever size composition she's working with. She really knows the line back and forth. She's another one that uses stamps and portions of stamps, textures of stamps in all kinds of different ways at different angles that I've ever seen someone use the pieces, the components with, and has a real kind of free form use of things like the bleed proof white. I think that's what you're using, right, Jeannie? But really a great depiction of textures and lighting within the pieces. And one of the things about her pieces is there's a lot of visual movement going on, brought about by the textures or depicted by the textures showing in there that reiterate the movement oftentimes of the forms that are within the piece. Okay, this piece right here, I'm guessing I need to ask her if she's spray sealed. I think I could spray seal this and it would bring out some of these tones in here a little bit more, which would be good because she's layered down a lot of subsurface layers of colors that are within this piece, like right in here. It might not be so obvious, but when you look at it, there's all kinds of different rich color areas within the piece. Okay, she's also really fantastic just in terms of texturing and whatnot. Some of her monochromatic pieces are some of her strongest pieces. Strong at, color too, but the monochromatics really kind of showcase the different texturing and whatnot. But see, even the simple area up here, or it's not simple, but it's really complex, but the small area, I should say, up here is really kind of brought into motion by all of these kind of strokes in here done by, I don't know what. I don't know if it's a brush stroke or whatever, but there's these brush strokes in here. There's the alto cumulus cloud kind of buried in the background right in here, done in different tones. And then you get these trees contrasting in a perpendicular fashion against this vertical movement going, or a diagonal movement going this way, but then you get the vertical movement going this way of those trees. So there's just a lot of visual movement going on in these pieces with so much texture. And that alto cumulus cloud goes throughout these trees down here, so there's this kind of overall wave going in here. And then, of course, we have the two roads going up this way, so we're going up this way as well. So it's a very kinetic piece, you might say, even though it's, this is a still piece, it's a two-dimensional card, but from a visual standpoint, there is just so much action going on in this piece in many different ways, and pretty much in every section that you look at. You can see these little check marks of those little grassy areas in here. Okay, so to contrast against that, I mean, not every piece is like super loud. Like this right here, she has, she's depicting kind of more tranquility going on in here, so you wouldn't want it to be explosively loud like that. This one's like almost expressionistic in some ways, where this one's more of like a tranquil type of setting. Maybe in terms of the color schemes, it could be seen as something more almost like impressionistic or something like that. So kind of a different kind of mood going on in here. And it would be interesting to contrast this against the visual movements of this piece. Okay. Similar color schemes going on in this one right here. If there was a third piece, you could almost do like a triptych with this one right here. You can have this one kind of going in like this, and this one in the middle, and another piece like this going kind of with some figure kind of looking this way. But again, very kind of impressionistic. It's almost like impressionistic types of usages of color, with these little kind of dots of shimmering types of colors. If it were oil painting, it would be like a Monet or something like that. These little shimmery little areas. It's not quite so abstract as that because we're working with, stamped imagery, but you get kind of those little elements when you zoom in these little portions like that and kind of break it down into I don't know, kind of the forms and whatnot, the textures that are being created by those paint pens in here. Okay, so let's move back into, kind of kinetic, kind of expressionistic movement like that. But look at that right there. It reminds me of German expressionism or something like that, done in stamping form. Okay, I call it stamp expressionism when I see her pieces, or on some of them, not the tranquil pieces, their movement. But look at all this movement. Like if you just looked like right there. Okay, sorry for the glare like that, but just a lot of movement. But I mean, this right in here has a calmness to it, so that kind of calmness, that's happening, like from there up, is really contrasting against all of this movement down there. It makes this area down here, when you have those contrasts like that in terms of mood, it makes that seem even more tranquil, and this seem even more kind of explosive and kinetic when these are in the same piece like that, because they're contrasting in terms of moods against each other like that. All right, moving on. Oh, here's this other piece right here. Here's what I was thinking about right here. Okay, you take something like this, and it's like a triptych, okay? I mean, that would work right there. And triptychs, there are three types of, it doesn't have to be scenes, but three pieces that are kind of meant to be displayed together in a given order. So you have this figure that's looking in this way, okay? This figure is kind of just coming straight out at you, but this figure right here is looking that way. So, see what I mean? They look like they could harmonize, and then they have similar color schemes like that. So you see, even that dog is going that way. Well, that wolf is going that way, but that one's going that way too. So, in terms of visual movement, it kind of leads to this one right here. I don't think she meant for these to be used that way, but nevertheless, they could be. I would do it like something like this, and I put it on one thing, and then kind of matted, with some kind of common color, maybe a double mat or something like that, and then on like one piece, like a board like that. And you should do that. She sent me these pieces that I should format it for her and send it back to her. It'd be really cool, so she can see kind of that formatting there. Okay, so here's another type of piece right here. But look at the motion kind of moving down here in this water. Okay, but then you get that kind of kind of impressionistic kind of use of those little colored dots like that to represent, I think like wildflowers or something like that. You've heard me mention interior lighting before, and here's that warm interior lighting of that cabin right there. It makes it very inviting to us as viewers. We kind of are curious to know what's going on in there, but we want to go in there and kind of have a warm kind of, cup of whatever, coffee, soup, whatever they're eating in there, Okay, I keep saying this, but look for the visual movement on all these pieces. Look at this one right here. It goes around like this and twirls up, and it goes right back around in here. Like, see those kind of movements like that? And see how that contributes to this kind of movement through that area in the background. And then we have all these little areas of snow that are kind of coming down. Very expressionistic in terms of everything. And there's a lot of texture with that snow right here. I don't know what medium that is, but it's pretty cool. But another very kinetic, moving piece right here. This one's, there's a lot of textures in here, but there's a tranquility to this, okay? Because the movements aren't quite so extreme. They're not kind of electric in terms of kind of the brush marks, I guess you can say. I don't know what Genie's using in terms of her application of it. It could be a brush, it might not be, but whatever it is, the brush-like strokes. But this one right here almost kind of vibrates with, kind of a overall kind of textures. There's contrasting textures in here, but they're all kind of about the same. So it kind of gives a feeling. It almost looks like tapestry to me, or something like that. But look at this. You know, there's not a lot of tones laid down. It's kind of minimal, but you still get that kind of that shimmery, silvery type of look right here. See, this is a little bit lighter in here. Light, dark, light. There's a little bit of darker here, but kind of lighter out here, but this is the lightest area. So you get those kind of areas like that. It's a little bit darker up here, but light right there, right? And then it's darker right here through the trees. Light, dark. Okay, so, I mean, you don't have to think about it so literally. It just means to retain some areas, and where you do, you know, like on this hillside right here, there's this little dark right here, and lighter down here. I have a feeling she put the dark right here to contrast against this lighter kind of horizon right there. So just that little bit of gray, you know, makes this hillside kind of come alive in terms of lighting. And that's just a real minimal use of gray tone for that little space right there. So, see what I mean? It's like the retention of light in areas, okay, but also on objects like that hill like that. And then there's a really faint version of the hill in the background, you know, to give it depth. And the final piece here is this lion piece. A lot of those great textures going up in the sky. That was a design that I did for a Stamp in the Hand company back in the day. And just a lot of rich tones in here, built up, layered, stacked. The snowy bank right here, like that, to extend this going up here for this, you know, 8.5 by 11 format. Right here, used to flank the country road right in the background. And look at this, right down here, this hill right here, okay, is the same hill used right here in the background. See that right there? But here, she has used it for texturing in here, in more of the midground, foreground area. But we don't see it as like a hill too much. Or it could be just like a small hill or sloping little slope right here. But it's just used just for that usage right there, and then toned over, so it just becomes kind of texture, filling in this whole area in here. But look at these streaks of color right up here. Okay, so anyways, I want to thank everyone who sent shared their pieces with me, sent them in. I don't know, it's pretty good to be able to go through and do this little portfolio review of these pieces, you know, to really share them with more people. I kind of feel bad when people send me their originals, you know, but I like to, you know, kind of put it into a format where more people than just me, can enjoy it. So I've asked people, hey, can I send, can I put those up on our, Flickr page, galleries, Pinterest, Facebook, and so on and so forth. Genie's on Facebook already, but so they've already been posted, but I've kind of reposted them again, kind of in a grouping of what I've received here. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and hope you enjoyed kind of the different usages of the Stampscapes line. You've seen me use my stamps in a certain way, but you can see people have their own kind of touches with it that they kind of develop, or that they just inherently have in them based on what their aesthetics are in terms of colors, media, lighting, etc. And we've seen things in kind of larger formats, and also kind of on your traditional quarter-page card-size formats in this video here. So always kind of interesting to see. If you want to see more things, I don't know if people kind of go through kind of galleries anymore, but the gallery on the Stampscapes website, it has, I think, there's over 10,000 pieces in there. We were very active at one time before kind of social media, and people were able to post things themselves into galleries like Picture Trail and whatnot, but glad that kind of online venues are around now for everyone to showcase their pieces with everyone out there. So that's what I'm doing here with the pieces that I was sent. Okay, thanks for watching.